Hello and good evening. My fellow Americans and Canadian, as I know there's a few Detroiters working in Canada and other places outside of the Detroit area, like myself here in Buffalo. I would like to go through the major four sports teams of this once great sporting city and go through the state of these teams and give them some letter grades. I have lived, breathed, and died with most of these teams through my 23 trips around the sun, and I want to get back to Detroit being the elite sports team all year round, similar to a Boston or a Philly, where at least two to three, if not all four teams, are competing for championships within the same calendar year. When I went to college from 2018 to 2022 in the great state of New York, not really. There was four sports teams, obviously, the Pistons, Tigers, Lions, and Red Wings. They went 1 for 16 in terms of making the playoffs. That lone appearance was from the 2018 Pistons, led by a one-legged Blake Griffin, that were ultimately swept in embarrassing fashion, with Blake Griffin nearly dying of exhaustion and pain from playing through a torn meniscus on the court. I love him forever, and if you don't love him forever, being Pistons fans, you're a scumbag, okay? This guy did his all, and then he wanted to get out and have fun in Brooklyn. Let him live, right? Come on. That might be another video down the line, but I digress. The Lions roared to a good conclusion. As for the teams right now, the Lions roared to a great conclusion to the season. The Wings showed life at times, with some people even penciling them to playoffs, like myself. And the Pistons are too early to tell, but they got some guys, we'll see. Injuries and that. Detroit and those in the Metro Detroit and even the state of Michigan that root for all of these teams are begging for a team to get back to the playoffs. And if you are a viewer of this video from another area and you don't realize how bad it is in Detroit, or if you've just tuned out the last few years and kind of, gone into some sort of like pain reduction mode and decided to not watch these teams and focus on our better college teams, first of all, happy that you haven't taken the years off your life with emotional distress. But for those of you that have, that need to know, the Red Wings last won the series, a playoff series in 2013. The Tigers also last won a playoff series in 2013. The Pistons' last series win was in 2008. And the Lions' last playoff win was in 1991. That was about 9 years before I was born. So kind of see the life of pain that we have inflicted ourselves upon by living in the beautiful state of Michigan. This means a kid born in 2013 is now 10 years old and has never seen a Major Four sports team in Detroit win a playoff game. The playoff game for the Lions, series for everyone else. You know what I mean. This is ridiculous and unacceptable. As I've said before, the Wings and Pistons are on the up and up. Lions are really close and really probably should make the playoffs next year. And the Tigers, well, we'll get to those guys later. However, this is outside of the Major Four sports teams. There is one team in Detroit that is good and consistently winning. That team is the Detroit City Football Club, also known as DCFC. This local soccer team was founded in 2012 and has been promoted twice, kind of promoted. They moved up a league and then the other league folded. It's pretty good. And they've won 3 championships, including one of them going invincible. And that means in soccer, you don't lose a game. They won or tied every game, and it was impressive. I was at the final game, I believe it was against one of the LA teams. It was absolute scenes. I believe they scored pretty late on. It was awesome. They now compete in the USL Championship, the second biggest league in the nation, right below the MLS. It's not, for those of you that know European soccer, you probably know about MLS soccer anyway, but if you somehow know about European and not the US structure, it's a franchise system, kind of like, pro sports. You can't go from from AAA in this case to the majors, but you can get close. The fan support and passion for the team just shows how ready Detroit is for some major success. I couldn't recommend more going to these games. I've gone to probably about 20 myself. Unbelievable atmosphere, unbelievable time, every time. I'm sure I'll get to it more in here. When you enter the Keyworth Stadium out in Hamtramck, Michigan, you see half the stadium sitting down, still impassionately into the game, while the other side, the Northern Guard fan supporters, will be in there singing, cheering, heckling, and supporting Le Rouge. The nickname of the team is Le Rouge, kind of like a River Rouge, that whole thing. And they will be supporting all 90 minutes. Like they don't stand up the whole time. It's like a European fan section where they got the smokes and flares, and they got the dudes and ladies that are standing up there with the megaphones and just turning back and yelling at the fans, beating the drums. It's awesome. There's a drum section. There's flags, flares, everything. It's an unbelievable time. It's a little not so family friendly on that side, but I would still bring your family, your kids. And if you don't even like soccer, just go for the atmosphere. The people are great. There's food trucks all in there. There's like Slows food trucks, some other ones in there. There's a bunch of different breweries in there, like some IPAs and things like that you want in there. You can upgrade and go to a box right behind the net. It's a great atmosphere. The Wings have gone there a few times. I could not recommend it more. But this more focusing on why they're included here is they're a good team, right? If you can't go to the game, they're now on ESPN Plus, and I give them an A for kind of getting into the purpose of this video. They moved up to the professional leagues. They were a semi-pro-ish thing. These guys kind of had to do things on the side outside of the season, but now they're professionals. A lot of them stayed on the team. They added a few guys, of course, but with a team of a few semi-pro guys, they went into a professional league and made the playoffs. Okay, they made the playoffs in their first year with semi-pros. That'd be like the Tigers this year with their lack of very good players, having a bunch of AAA guys show up and make the playoffs. It's very, very, very impressive. Some key members have left the team this offseason, but the spine of the team is still there and cannot wait to go back to Michigan to catch a few games, and I hope to see some of you there. A is the only A we'll be giving, maybe, and that'll be given to the DCFC. Now into the rest of the video. The Red Wings. So for this one, I'm not the biggest hockey guy anymore. I used to be. Same thing with baseball. The sport has pushed me away. Football, I'm still a big fan of, and basketball because Michigan has done well enough, right? So as these teams get better, I wouldn't call myself a bandwagon fan. I still can name every guy on the roster for both teams. It's just I don't sit down to watch every single game. The Pistons I have, and the Lions too, unfortunately, right? So looking at this, I talk to some of my good friends, and I'm going to read their blurbs, and we're going to kind of go from there. First up, Dylan, C+. Last year was almost a D+, so it's a huge improvement. Goaltending has gone sideways a step, but we've gotten a better backup starting goalie and have no more backups from the rest because, there's a few guys that have gone up and down. The G League, I guess, the trip, whatever they call it, AHL. We can't have Huso playing 60 games a year and have him try to make a deep cup run. The offseason additions have made a huge improvement, but I still think this time will work out. I think Larkin will take an 8x8, so 8 years, $8 million per year, so 64 in total. He's from Detroit, and he's the captain. It's a big deal with the Wings. For those of you that aren't super into hockey, usually captains just kind of thrown on the jersey of the quarterback with terms of like the Lions in the NFL. I couldn't tell you how many of the captains there are, but it's a very select group of people. It's kind of like the Yankees, like a real big deal. Like, hey, you're the captain of the Wings. Whoa. It's like there's like a T-shirt my uncle used to have where it was just all the retired numbers, or I think it was the captains, one of the two. I believe there's probably a pretty big Venn diagram there. Our defense may need some more work. We're giving up too many good chances in a game and to putting ourselves in spots that won't be going to win us any games. So yeah, he thinks we're a lot closer. Up next is Luke, a little bit lower than a C+, gives him a C. He says that they can't score to save their lives, and they need some key players to stay healthy, which, that kind of happens. Stuff happens. At this point, it's most likely a wait and see game for the prospects and signing some free agents to fill in some holes, and Kopp is not being the center they thought he would be. So he's one of the additions coming in, so maybe a little bit of a conflicting report there. And finally, for my Detroit fans, I got Alex. I'd give the Wings a C+. Ideally, they would want to be closer to a playoff spot than they currently are, but missing the playoffs this year was expected, so it's not the end of the world. Now, I agree with that because people have been saying, me too, they had a real hot start to the year. And that kind of happens in a lot of rebuilds where you start hot and then it's like, what happened? And it's like, don't let your hot start change your expectations, if that makes sense, right? Because if I'm trying to think of an example. Again, like the Tigers, right? They're going to be really bad. If they win 20 games to start the year, and everyone's going to be like, oh my God, World Series or bust. And it's like, no, they're really bad. They just had a good swing at front, right? Some negatives this year would be Bertuzzi's injuries. Every game I turn on, he hurts his hand. I actually watch a lot of Wings games because of ESPN Plus, and then I'm out of market, so it works. Bertuzzi's injuries, and when he's healthy, hasn't fit in, causing a 60-point-plus player last year to finish less than half this year. Zadina has not panned out as a prospect. He was a first-round pick a few years ago that we thought. And may be up for trade discussions. Goaltending is another huge issue. Sending down Nedeljkovic after he signed into a contract and Huso being inconsistent is tough. Yzerman recently offered an 8x8 and Larkin wants 9. So, one will think maybe they'll meet in the middle 8.5. But, it's only $1 million a year, but that's a lot in hockey. So you would think that he would take a hometown discount being from Michigan. But then again, I'm a big player over organization guy in terms of most other sports. So it's like, hey, go get your bag, kid. And then the last guy I got here before I put my own little input in is I have my good friend Aiden. He is from the DMV area, you could say. He's from Annapolis, Maryland. He is a big Caps fan, so he dealt with bad hockey for a long time before, so he kind of knows what he's seeing here. So Aiden says, I'd give a B- or a C+. Their goaltending is the biggest issue because they can't find a reliable goaltender. And with Larkin asking for too much money, they're going to have Sider or Raymond be the potential face of the franchise. If I were them, I would trade Larkin so they at least get something in return rather than letting him walk and you get nothing. If they want to rise in the rankings, they need to settle their goaltender issues and work on getting Vrana back. Disclaimer, Aiden's the biggest Jacob Vrana fan in the entire world that doesn't have the last name Vrana. and it'll make a good impact. I would say goaltending is what they're looking for at the deadline. Also, Vrana has been on the up and up recently. Another Vrana thing. Yeah, but so it looks like, right, the goaltending is a big issue and inconsistent play from these players. So hopefully you can get that fixed out with another offseason. Bring in a few more glue guys. You can kind of see now that they're starting to pan out, whether that be good or bad, that it's like, hey, we have a direction, right? And Yzerman is a really good GM, and I don't know anything better than to trust him blindly because he built the Tampa Bay Lightning up from nothing, and they're a juggernaut, right? They won, 2 cups in a row? Unbelievable stuff. And if they can even do half that in Detroit, which is actually a free agent destination in hockey, which is surprising for anybody that's not a hockey fan and other sports, you'd be like, what? Why would you want to go to Detroit? Exactly. It's an original 6 team, a bit of allure, and one of the most historic franchises in the sport. So that kind of helps. But as for my thoughts here, I'd like to put my input here now that I'm sourcing out some friends that I'm very lucky to have. Shout out all you guys. I used to go to many Wings games, running up the stairs with my cousin Taft, hearing those "Let's Go Red Wings" chants echoing around the outside of the Joe in between what seems to be 100 different Little Caesars really gives me goosebumps, even like right now. Like, God, playoff hockey would be so cool in this city. And I was lucky enough to go to the season opener this year with my adopted little brother Dominic, shout out Dominic, against the Canadiens. And even then it was sold out, right? People were buzzing. The place was electric. They scored the first goal. We went insane. It was, oh man, it just felt like a playoff atmosphere. And LCA was even packed then. Everyone was talking about the situation. It says the same thing. 2024 was the year, or is the year next year, right? And the Wings started off hot this year. And I think that messed a lot of people's brains. And like so many rebuilds, people started to move the goalposts after some success. From what I'm being told, we're on the right track, but we need a year or two. As of now, I still trust the Yzer plan as I'm not knowledgeable enough to say otherwise. Let's go Red Wings. I give them a C+ as well. So consensus C+ for the Red Wings. On to the Pistons. So now this is a bit more my expertise, I would say. Pistons 1, Lions 2, Red Wings 3, Tigers 4. Pistons have to get C-. Major disclaimer is that, yes, Cade Cunningham was injured. He's out for the year, and that'll be factored in. Due to Cade's injury, the Pistons are hanging on at a C-, but realistically, in a vacuum, I don't think it'd be much better even if he was playing. It's almost good in a weird way that we're having such a bad year with him out. So it's like, wow, Cade's that good. Is he? I think so. He's not to the level a lot of people think he is yet, but I mean, because he was still in the point where like he would pick up basketball and he'd be like, so I mean, I am the same way, so I can't even get mad. Like, you can make TikToks of him just dribbling like normal between the legs moves that anyone could do, right? And I would be like, wow. So now I'm aware the trade deadline is this week, but based on what we're hearing from the Pistons front office, I doubt this roster is much different today than it is from a week from now. Hopefully this is just a Troy Weaver smokescreen, but who knows? Breaking down the roster into 2 groups is what I'm going to do here. Ends up being 3 groups because I've already read the script. Pieces and pawns, and then TBDs. Pieces are pretty easy there. This will seem a little disrespectful to the pawns. I hate to say that because I love this team. There's a lot of guys on it that are good. I know the record stinks, but there's a lot of hardworking kids in this team. I say kids like I'm some old man, but half of them are younger than me. But however, all of this being said, it is a rebuilding team, and we should try to trade the naming rights to the stadium if it was for a conditional second-round pick, Hinkie style, if you will. So far, the pieces I would have to say are Cade, Ivy, and Duran. Stewart, Killian, and Sadiq for now I will say are pieces, but I think we're only going to probably re-sign 1, maybe 2 of those guys. If they are willing to take a little bit more team-friendly deals, keep them around. If you can get Killian for like 8 or 9 a year, you can get Stu for the same, and then probably a little bit more for Sadiq because he's a ball scorer that can just drop 20 or 15. Then again, he can get cold and drop nothing. So it's going to be very interesting about that. I'll do a Pistons free agency video coming up soon. As for the pawns, Bagley, Bogdanovich, Burks, Joseph, Noel, Magruder. I know that's like the entire roster, but the guys at limbo, Kevin Knox, Hamidou Diallo, and Livers. I know Livers has been underwhelming this year with nagging injuries, but he's an absolute microwave off the bench last season. One of the best per 36 guys out there. Yes, it was a tanking team. Yes, he hasn't been on the floor since. Yes, the guy that is developing him is a Michigan Wolverine, and the guy making this video is a Michigan Wolverine fan. So, that a little bit of bias in there, but, most people probably have him on the trade block too. Kevin Knox, he was a high pick out of Kentucky, athletic freak wing. If he was good enough for someone to take him that high, maybe keep him around if it ends up $1 or $2 million a year deal, whatever it even is, something super low, right? It's the same as like an old vet, but, maybe he, gets good in the offseason and pans out in I'm trying to think of an example of a guy that's kind of just come out of nowhere. I guess even like a Spencer Dinwiddie thing. He was like, not the greatest, and then just kind of came out of nowhere and filled into his own. And finally, Hamidou Diallo. I love Hamidou Diallo. I was at the Pelicans game where he played backup center for like 25 minutes. He was trying to guard Valanciunas as much as he could. Just didn't work. He was a hyper-athletic freak, so he could block everything, but as soon as Valanciunas lowered the shoulder, I mean, it was straight through him. He'd either fall down or get dunked on. So it was a hard spot for a shooting guard to be playing center, right? Whatever. But his effort was nice. I think he'd be a good guy to keep around just kind of as a swingman off the bench. And he's super athletic. He's just ability to get down the court is unmatched, and he's one of the best dunkers of all time. I'm saying that. I don't care. He won a dunk contest, so that puts him in the elite group of some of the best dunk hunters of all time, except last year's dunk contest. That doesn't count. Come on. But, I mean, he did a dunk over Shaq, arm in the rim, Vince Carter. That was pretty lit. But, yeah, so looking at for the rest of this, you want to – as for the pawns, you got to do what you can to maximize the return for them, especially the top-end guys of Bogdanovich and Burks. You know, Jeremy Grant did get a concussion, I believe, recently, so I think he's kind of out of the market. Maybe. I don't really know how that works. I don't get how you can pass a medical and trade some guys that are injured. I think didn't KD get traded, or someone got traded that was like, you know, very injured. I don't know how that works. But now that Kyrie's in Dallas, other teams might want to wing in Bogdanovich to help him help with a resurging West. Maybe a team like Sacramento or the LA teams, you know, if they want to be a third or fourth option to knock down some shots. As for the rest of the pawns, anything works, right? A second-round pick, who knows? I mean, you know, Burks will probably get you maybe a first, probably more likely 2 seconds from what the market's been being told. But, you know, we never know. We just got to find out and see what happens. Now, I'll just do the Tigers quick. I don't know a ton about the Tigers. I would refer you to Chris Castellani on Twitter. Great follow, great kid. Hopefully a future coworker of mine. But yeah, he covers the Pistons all the time. He got hired to Barstool because he was alone watching the Turnbull no-hitter against the Mariners at like 1 a.m. and Portnoy came across his thing and saw it. Was like, this kid's awesome. So he hired him. As I got D-. The firing for Avila is the only reason why it's not an F. I don't know much about the Tigers anymore, but I used to love them a ton. Similar to the Pistons, one of my fondest memories was going to the Tigers-Yankees game while we were wearing headphones from my old Apple iPod. My Aunt Killian and Fitz got me. And we put them in. We were watching it was Sabathia versus Verlander. And so I think it was ALCS or DS, one of the two. But place was rocking. It was unbelievable. It was about 2009-ish, I think, maybe 2010, 11. But it was an unbelievable experience. Shout out Dad for that. And it was like, God, this team in this town, like just how passionate and like fun. Like your life can get so much better. You're sitting in the cube. You want to do anything but work. And it's like, well, I can get through it because I got the Tigers tonight. They're playing the Red Sox. They're going to kick their ass. It's going to be great, right? Now it's the other way around. You just know you're going to lose. And you look at every metric in terms of Tigers. Every article I read, it's like, here's your top 100 prospects. There's like one Tiger on it. Here's the top 30 farm systems. I think the Tigers are like 28, 29. It's like, dude, you had one of the best rosters of all time. You didn't win a World Series, which is bad enough, right? Mr. I died, R.I.P. Shout out Mr. I, right? You know. He died, and the chances of this team competing again in the recent future is gone, right? You know the kids weren't going to spend money. Chris hasn't spent a dime. The Tigers, as I see all the time from Chris Castellani, have not signed a position player this year in free agency. They signed a pitcher or two, I think Matt Boyd and someone else, and nothing else. So we lost a bunch of guys in free agency. Who's going to be playing first base, third base, second base, shortstop? You know, obviously Baez playing shortstop and probably Torkelson in one of the corners. But Candelario's gone. The Castros are gone. Like, what's going on? Total failure. I didn't even mention their name on earlier videos when I was talking about this Detroit sports list for Christmas. I just didn't want to say the Tigers by name, but they're a great team. Best logo in sports, unquestioned answer, is always the Old English D, especially for me and a lot of people from the area. And it would be great to see them good again, but they are probably 3 years off. The new kid they got from the Giants and Cubs, I've heard is really good. The front agency guy, he's going to be I think he's going to be the GM, but he's apparently something to look after for, and he's doing good, so that's what we'd like to see. Finally, here we have the Lions. So the Lions are actually in a really good spot. Now, the draft is coming up, free agency is coming up, and we're at the 6th pick. We're getting mocked a lot of edge rushers, you know, Tyree Wilson, Miles Murphy, maybe Brian Brisset. Okay, it's spelled Brees, but I guess it's Brisset. So one of those guys, maybe not a corner, please not a corner at freaking 6, unless it's Jalen Ramsey, it's a bust, okay? But, any defensive front guy works. I would be okay with Anthony Richardson. Don't click off the video. I already made a video on why. Don't boo me. But yeah, so looking at him would be a good option, in my opinion. If CJ Stroud somewhere there, you got to take him, right? If a quarterback is in your lap, that's not named Will Levis, you got to take him. That's just me, right? And at 18, maybe take another receiver for a weapon. People would think I'm crazy, but you'd probably end up taking one of the linebackers maybe a little early, or hopefully a corner. If you can get one of the top edge guys and you can get one of the corners, whether it be Joey Porter, who I think is going to fly up the boards in mock drafts after the combine, or you get someone else down there, that'd be a really good option, right? You can get Cam Smith, who's not testing well, but he's a great kid out of South Carolina. You can get Chris Gonzalez from Oregon. Devin Witherspoon, should probably be off the board from Illinois, but who knows? As for the rest of the team, Jared Goff is your guy going forward. You're going to probably need to find an option to replace him soon, but as of now, he's your guy. Running back will be very interesting. There's a really deep running back class this year, so that might be something you can tell Jamal and be like, hey, Jamal, a little pay cut would be great, hometown deal. Or you don't resign him, let him walk. I know people think Swift is gone. He hasn't been healthy. People believe he's going to ask for a lot more money than he wants, or deserve a lot more money than he deserves, in their opinion. But I do like Swift. He doesn't stay healthy, but he's a hell of a player when he's healthy. Was it, I think, against the Bills where he had that game on Thanksgiving where he had that he rolled on the ground and then got up and just ran another 10 yards and scored a touchdown. Unbelievable. Defensive line's great. The defense was surging. Obviously, Aiden's great, and the rest of the defense needs a little bit of work. But the corners, young guys are good. Okuda, Amorie, and then Kirby Joseph picks off Aaron Rodgers 100 times a year. So hopefully he stays in the division. But if he gets traded to the Raiders, we play them. So mark your calendar to Kirby for some free picks. But it's crazy. Full disclosure, I've been a huge Lions fan. The first game I really rooted for them, hard, passionate, week in, week out, was when they played the Patriots on Monday Night Football. And I had a bunch of Boston roommates first weekend or two at college, and I was just kind of messing with them. And I was just like, let's go Lions. They're like, oh, you're from Detroit. You love the Lions. I was like, I really don't. But, that's kind of what happens when you win 10 games in 8 years. But, it's fine. And so they obviously won that game, Patricia, and they upset Brady. And I was kind of locked into a Lions fan since then. But it's paying off dividends now. I do live in Buffalo, and people are like, hey, want to become a Bills fan? I'm like, first of all, I'm not a scumbag bandwagon fan like some people I know. You know who I'm talking about that's watching this video. So I was like, hey, the Lions are getting good. They're feeling great. I was with Mike Neuer, my good friend here, when we watched the Packers game, and I was going nuts. I ripped my shirt off on that crazy hook and ladder, or what's it called, hook and ladder, flea flicker to Jameson Williams. Absolute great play. Unbelievable. I was going nuts. The Sewell doing his thing, hitting guys, and then the little hook and ladder they actually did run later in the thing with Amon-Ra at the end of the game to ice it. Unbelievable. Watching Quay Walker assault a trainer the week of the DeMar Hamlin thing. It's like, what are you doing, dude? Time and place, one time. But yeah, other than that, the Lions are great. I give them probably an A-. That first start of the year, you did go 1-6. That needs to be talked about. I don't want to be that pessimistic Lions fan and be like, yeah, dude, they started 1-6. They lost to the Panthers for a reason. They did cover the spread against every team in the second half of the season. Outside of the game, they lost, obviously, the Panthers by 1 billion. So that's something to build on. And there's a lot of momentum going in it. Would have been nicer, as my good friend Taft pointed out, biggest Lions fan I know, to lose to the Packers. Obviously, it would have sucked, but, you move up 3 draft spots. It might hurt us because that's, I think, where we could lose some value with the corner position. Who knows? But that moment, that's a moment you build on, because in a city like Detroit, where every team is tanking, my thing is that the Pistons are playing the Celtics. I'm taping this the Monday night. I have to root for the Celtics. Let's go Tatum. Come on. Win the game, because I'm rooting for a 7'4" unicorn to bless my existence, right? My entire season comes down to lottery balls and envelopes, right? With the Wings and the Wings and Pistons, right? I guess Tigers kind of have a lottery now too, but no one really cares. So it's nice that the Lions are able to get a win and start building some winning culture, because we saw in Hard Knocks that they obviously got a lot of guys with them that want to be here. DJ Chark wanted to be here. He goes, oh, I'm so happy to be Detroit. And you're like, what? It's not hockey, but it's good to see. So this is where I'll wrap the video up. I might do this more often. I'll probably do a follow-up post trade deadline for both teams. Or I might just do I'll probably just do a quick recap of the trade deadlines for mostly NBA. For NHL, check out Ring the Post. I'll put a link in the description because Aiden helped me out. He's the guy that helped me with the little bit of the Red Wings stuff in there too. Anything hockey related, go check him out. Shout out to everyone that helped me make this video. Thank you all for watching. The support's great. I know the Kyrie Irving video went pretty viral the other day. People are saying I called the Mavs. No, Shams has not called me. Yeah, Michigan background. Let's go. But maybe me and Mark Cuban are best friends. I'll see you on Shark Tank next week. Thank you so much for watching, though. Seriously, this has gone already way better than schedule. I kind of just started making these videos when I was home from work. I was back at home in my bedroom, and I was like, let me start to make a YouTube channel. And so I just bought a GoPro and started making videos. And the fact that I wanted to be monetized in a year, and I'm already a quarter of the way there, and it's been a month or two. That's awesome. So I'm seeing that I'm hitting one of the longer videos we've had by quite a margin here on my recording. So I'm going to wrap this one up. Thank you so much. Seriously appreciate it. If there's any ideas, let me know in the comments. Thank you for the likes and subscribes. Comment down below. Share it to 3 friends. Anything, please. I really appreciate it. Thank you guys for spending some time with me. Go Pistons. Go Tigers. Let's go Red Wings. Let's go Lions. Restore the roar. Hey, I'll see you at some DCFC games too. They're running it back and they won the title this year. You heard it here first. Thank you, my fellow Americans. This has been the Detroit State of the Union.